asset. I would like to invite on stage Mr. Girish Chandra Murmu, Honorable Comptroller and Auditor General of India. I'd like to invite on stage Dr. Ajay Bhushan Prasad Pandey, respected Chairman, National Financial Reporting Authority. I'd like to request Mr. T.N. Manoharan, past President, ICAI, to kindly come on the stage. For this session, we'll also be joined by CA Dr. Debashish Mitra, President, ICAI, and CA Aniket Talati, Vice President, ICAI. It was truly an honor for us when former President of India, while addressing the CA fraternity, had shared this thought that chartered accountants are partners in nation building. This thought over the years has motivated us to contribute to nation building even more. But when we look at this thought from the prism of the values like trust, confidence, transparency, accountability, how do we understand the meaning of that? That is the essence of the discussion in this plenary session that is just about to begin. We have the distinguished guest here within the premises, and they will be on the stage any moment. Once again, a quick reminder that as you listen to various sessions, if you have any questions, any feedback, you can always go and access the World Congress of Accountants mobile app. You can go to the drop-down menu, program, schedule, participate, and that is where you can also ask your question. So just write the question, press submit, it'll come to us, and we will try our best to include your question. So we have with us the panelists for this session. I request Honorable Comptroller and Auditor General of India, Mr. Girish Chandra Murmu ji, to please come on the stage. Honorable President ICAI, kindly come on the stage, sir. We request Dr. Ajay Bhushan Prasad Pandey, Chairman, National Financial Reporting Authority, to please come on the stage.
Present.
We have with us CAT and Manoharan, past President with the Institute. Please welcome all our dignitaries with a round of applause as they will participate in this plenary session on the topic Accountancy Profession Partner in Dr. Debashish Mitra, President ICAI, to share his welcome address, please.
Thank you very much. Sri Girish Chandra Murmu, the Honorable Comptroller and Auditor General of India, Sri Bhushan Pandey, the Chairman, National Financial Reporting Authority, NFRA, our past President, Padma Shri T.N. Manoharan, the Vice President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Aniket Talati, ladies and gentlemen, a very, very good evening to all of you. My great pleasure in welcoming you to this session on regulators. And you can all see that we have on the dais two very, very important regulators, the CAG and NFRA. And let me tell you, you see, both these gentlemen personally and the offices that they hold have been very close to the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. We work extremely closely with them. And you see, we exchange knowledge and the interactions are very positive. you'll be surprised to note that in a recent meeting of the CAG, those of us who do PSU audit, one of the topic of discussion was how to enhance the fees of the auditors. And you see, that is the way they think. And the presentation was being done by the CAG officials and not by me. Something which I ought to have been doing, but the CAG officials were doing the presentation and not by me. And sir has been, so much supportive of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. When we needed him at the last moment on 1st of July for the CA Foundation Day, we just approached sir and he said that for the Institute, I am always there. And for us at the Institute, it is a feeling of great satisfaction, great confidence that the Honorable CAG, the Honorable Comptroller and Auditor General of India, you see, is mentally inclined positively towards you. Sir, you see, thank you very much for your kind presence, sir, today amidst us. It is our great pleasure and privilege to have you amidst us, sir. And let me tell you, sir, you see, the Institute will always do everything possible to live up to the expectations of the CAG. The next gentleman, Sri Ajay Bhushan Prasad Pandey, the chairman of NFRA. When he took over, one of the first thing when I went and met sir, was, we said that, sir, let us talk to each other. And number two, if there is an issue, we shall resolve across the table. And since then, sir has been our steadfast friend of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. You see, he does not surprise us by his actions. And you see, we are always in dialogue because we have a common objective of enhancing audit quality. And we do everything possible in that direction. Today, somebody was asking me in a press conference that what is the Institute doing to enhance the audit quality? And I said that since we sit in Mumbai, since the World Congress is being organized in Mumbai, we have a Center for Audit Quality which is located in Mumbai. And this Center for Audit Quality has developed something called AQMM, Audit Quality Maturity Models. We have developed audit quality indicators. The idea is do everything possible for enhancement of the audit quality, because we believe that at the end of the day, we will be judged by the quality of our audit. Sir, the theme of this 21st World Congress is building trust and enabling sustainability. So the Institute believes that it is not the size that matters. Sir, we are already the second largest accounting body in the world. Not even the power, but it is the respect and dignity that the profession commands. That is the most important aspect for the profession. And so that is the belief of the Institute. And we are doing everything possible in that direction, trying to attain the trust of the nation and the trust of the stakeholders. So on sustainability, I can say with great deal of confidence that we are the leaders in that. You see, we developed the Sustainability Reporting Standards Board more than 2 years back, and we were one of the pioneers in that. We have now developed the Sustainability Reporting Standards. Now, for SEBI, which has come up with the Social Stock Exchange, we have developed the Social Audit Standards. So the other day, chairperson of SEBI, madam, she came to our office in BKC, and she was in praise of the efforts of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. She was saying, can we also expect something on digital assurance? And we told her, Madam, we'll also work on that and do whatever is required. So as a standard setter, we not only set standards on the accounting side, but we are also equally laying stress on the standard setting on ethics, because we believe that at the end of the day, it will be the integrity, excellence, and independence by which we will be judged. Sir, it has been a great pleasure working with both of you, and I'm sure, we'll continue working. And this gentleman to my extreme right, Padma Shri, past President T.N. Manoharan, I think he requires no introduction. He's written a book on how, he has been given the Padma Shri because many people remember us for Satyam in a bad way. But he has been given the Padma Shri because he was successful in turning around Satyam. Right? So we have, such kind of personalities amidst us. And it is our great pleasure to have him, moderating this session today, sir. And a hearty welcome to you, sir, on behalf of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. To all of you, I hope that you have an extremely enthralling session, because the speakers that we have are speakers of great erudition, of great experience, and they will share their thoughts, which I believe will be of extreme relevance to the 21st World Congress and also to the profession. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, CA Dr. Debashish Mitra, for heartily welcome everyone. The Office of the Comptroller and Auditor General is the supreme audit institution. It's a constitutional body, and it is an honor for us that at the World Congress we have the presence of Mr. Girish Chandra Murmu ji. I now request the respected Comptroller and Auditor General to share his theme address, please.
Dr. Debashish Mitra, President of the ICAI, Mr. Talati, the Vice President of the ICAI, distinguished panelists, Dr. Ajay Bhushan Pandey, Chairman of NFRA, past President CA, Mr. Manoharan, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to all of you. I am very happy to be here at the 21st World Congress of the Accountants, hosted by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India this year. I am glad to learn that this year's conference has put the spotlight on building trust, enabling sustainability. Both trust and sustainability are critical for any citizen, civilized society, democratic governance, and for entire humanity. It assumes greater importance in the globalized, interdependent system and on the face of emerging challenges. Accounting is core to build trust in all walks of trade, commerce, industry, and in governance. The culture of accounting has to be made in tune with sustainable development and inclusive growth. The World Congress of Accountants, as we all know, is a meeting ground of some of the best global minds in the accounting profession. Its members are some of the most diverse and talented professionals, including auditors, accountants, actuaries, regulators, standard setters, finance controllers, CEOs, and CFOs. The business community, the public, and the professional field experts all look up to the World Congress of Accountants to provide new insights and innovations for improving efficacy of the financial reporting and business management. The history of phenomenal growth in trade and commerce is closely intertwined with that of the development of the accounting profession. It is inconceivable that without timely and accurate financial information in form of accounts, the era of international economic model would have grown to its present size. The ICAI has been aware to the emerging situation, challenges, and constantly strive to evolve and uphold its standards to ensure transparency and accountability in financial reporting. The ICAI has been playing a crucial role in regulating the profession by adopting high accounting standards, auditing procedures, and accurate accounting practices. It has diverse expertise in a wide array of taxation matters, from capital budgeting, budget forecasting, and accounts auditing. The accountancy and auditing profession has always been a strong enabler in policy formation and policy implementation. One of the recent examples, if I may cite, is the contributions made by the CA fraternity in the implementation of goods and services tax in the country. However, the economy is going through a massive transformation with evolution of new and innovative tools in doing business. These will challenge the conventional accounting tradition and thinking. For example, there is the issue of new balance sheet, where companies which hardly have any physical assets or employees have revenue streams of billions of dollars. Case in point is the cab and hotel room aggregators. The accounting profession not only has to keep itself abreast of with the technological changes, but has to keep in step with the new disruptive business models of the 21st century. There are many other challenges which impact the global value chain, especially the international transaction, an example being the emergence of cryptocurrency, and the challenges of capturing untraceable financial transactions, which will be a huge challenge in the financial audits. Today, we need to constantly search for credible tools to meet the challenges emanating from the development in trade and tariff systems and emergence of digital assets necessitating credible accounting environment. We need accountants who can contribute in creating sustainable business by taking advantage of emerging tools and innovations in public financial management to foster inclusive growth. India has remained resilient during the emerging challenges of pandemic and economic slowdown, and has become the fifth largest economy in the world. And the country is witnessing massive infrastructure development, high industrial growth, and rising consumption levels. It is well on its way to become a global manufacturing hub. Hundreds of homegrown small and medium enterprises and young entrepreneurs are creating unicorns, which shows a positive signal. They would require, especially in their initial days, guidance and support from the accounting profession for legal and regulatory compliance. The Government of India has well-defined digital strategy for augmenting the country's social and physical infrastructure. The country has initiated several e-governance solutions for delivery of public services. At present, we run the world's largest direct benefit transfer program for the welfare of millions of poor in the country. The Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Financial Inclusion Program is linked to citizens' unique identity numbers and their mobile phones, an effort that has been able to plug subsidy leakages to large extent. We need sustainable IT governance and prudent financial management to enact large public programs transparently without running into cost and time delays. Accounting and audit professionals must take note of this development to complement the government's efforts. We have to ensure that we discharge our duties with high ethical, technical, and professional standards. Digital assurance will allow auditors to validate for an entire population, which will improve efficient workflow and build trust in financial statements. It is time, therefore, for the accountancy profession to take steps towards building high-quality integrated reporting and performance statements. It is heartening to note that the ICAI has been adopting emerging technologies like blockchain, artificial intelligence, big data, and is imparting training on those tools. The Comptroller and Auditor General of India, as an independent constitutional authority, has unique role of auditing all the receipts and the expenditure of the Union and State of India. Moreover, for third tier of the government, which is local bodies such as municipalities and village level institutions, CAG provides both technical guidance and support to their respective auditors, as well as conducts periodic audits wherever entrusted. CAG audits all the public sector enterprises which are run on commercial lines and follows the ICAI's accounting standards. It also, by statutes of Parliament, is responsible for reporting on issues of fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, and matter of debt sustainability. We at CAG have used cutting-edge technologies such as satellite imagery and geospatial analysis to aid audit planning and evidence gathering. I am happy to share that our progress in the area of research and capacity building for information system, data analytics, and environmental audit is comparable to the best in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to touch upon another important area of accounts on the issue of sustainable development paradigm. The maxim popularized in the 80s that greed is good requires a serious rethink if our planet has to sustain itself. Though humans are still on a footnote in the chronological history of millions of years of evolution of life in this planet, however, within a few thousand of years, we have brought unimaginable changes upon Earth. The issue of sustainable development can no longer be overlooked, and accountants and auditors also have an important role to play here to comment not just on the legality, propriety, transparency, and accountability, but also on sustainability. Today, more than ever, we should be guided by Mahatma Gandhi's message when he said, the earth provides enough to satisfy every man's needs, but not every man's greed. Towards this end, I commend the ICAI's Sustainability Reporting Standard Board for making persistent efforts to achieve Panchamrit of the 5 nectar necessary to make India a low-intensity carbon state, as envisioned by our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji during the COP26 at Glasgow. It is heartening to note that the ICAI is formulating comprehensive standards for measuring and disclosing non-financial information on an entity progress towards meeting the SDG goals, and has recently issued first ever assurance standards on ESG. CAG's Government Accounting Standards Advisory Board released the first ever compendium of asset accounts of natural resources in October this year. This data was prepared in line with the UN system of environmental and economic accounts and covers all the 28 states and 1 union territory. We are proud that this specialized handbook detailing available fossil fuel and mineral is one of the few examples of natural resource accounting anywhere in the world. The CAG shares a long and fruitful association with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. We have also been working together to evolve standards for accounting and auditing and for improving quality reviews for a long time in various committees. A special mention has to be made about joint efforts to improve financial statements of public sector undertakings. I am sure this synergy would be instrumental in establishing quality financial reporting and a credible compliance framework. This will not only strengthen corporate governance practice in our country, but also guide us towards realizing the country's economic and social objectives. I am certain the experience and insights of the panel speakers would set the tone for fruitful discussion and sharing of new ideas from practice for the greater good of society and economy. We live in an interconnected world today, and adoption of universally acceptable standard is critical for professional competence in any field. As I conclude, I would emphatically state that the World Committee of Accountants and the Auditors is very valuable pillar of the global financial and economic environment. Emerging challenges have to be addressed by such world bodies with a holistic approach, keeping in mind the existing inequalities, unique and diversified system, digital divide, and sustainability. The expectation of the Society for Accounts and Auditors is that we will contribute constructively and positively towards the goal of more equitable and sustainable world. As I leave these thoughts with you, I convey my best wishes to all the participants at the 2022 World Congress of Accountants. Also, I would like to congratulate ICAI once again for successfully hosting this event in India. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Girish Chandra Murmu, Honorable Comptroller and Auditor General of India. And now for his special address, I would like to invite Dr. Ajay Bhushan Prasad Pandey, Chairman, National Financial Reporting Authority. Sir.
Sri Girish Chandra Murmu, Comptroller and Auditor General of India, CA Debashish Mitra, President of ICAI, CA Aniket Talati, Vice President ICAI, and CA TN Manoharan, past President ICAI, and all the council members who are present here, and distinguished delegates who have come from all over the world, and all distinguished audience, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed my proud privilege to be in this, to be here on this occasion, because this 21st World Congress of Accountants, which is happening here, I am told that this is happening for the first time. And I was told that almost for more than 100 years, 118 years, as a country we got this privilege to host this international conference. So it is indeed a matter of a great proud for every Indian, ICAI, because I have seen very closely that how much effort they have, sheer amount of effort that Mr. Debashish Mitra and Mr. Talati and his entire team has done. Day and night they have worked to ensure that this World Congress, which has come to India for the first time, is indeed a success. The topic for this session is accounting profession partner in nation building. And in fact, our former president of India, APJ Abdul Kalam, had coined this term, partners in nation building, for the Indian Chartered Accountants during his address to the CA fraternity. You know, there couldn't have been a better description of this profession than this. Because when you are actually building a nation, and in this world, of course, you know, the government does something, but there are lot things are done also in the private sector. But what is that common link? The common link is that the chartered accounting profession, both accountancy and auditing, which applies equally to the government and also to the private sector. And so this is the common link and very, very essential function that they do, and that is where the role of the partnership in the nation building. Now, if we see the total, the chartered accountancy profession here and the ICAI, we all know that ICAI was formed in 1949. And since then, through these various committees and the research committee which got constituted in 1955, expert advisory committee 1975, it has been making efforts consistently through all, through last 7-8 decades to enable our country with a very sound system of accounting and auditing. One thing what we all must acknowledge is that from the very beginning, ICAI and then the accounting profession here, they have been adhering to the international standards. I mean, just imagine their foresight 7, 8 decades back. They could have used any, any accounting system, any auditing system, but then they adhere largely to this international system and see the advantage today that in the times of a globalization, when the lot of investments are coming to our country and then our people are going out and making investments there, having a accounting system and auditing system as per the international standards is of a great help. And that is why a few years back when India decided to adopt the international IFRS, and so we said that yes, India is, and with about 9 carve-outs, we could do that within a very short span of time. Within few years, we could adopt Ind AS, and that was possible because ICAI and then the entire accounting and auditing profession has been working towards the building an international standards and adhering to the international standards. The second aspect where again, their contribution is very important, the taxation. And in fact, both the CAG and I were at some, in our previous role, we have been part of that taxation because both have worked in the revenue department. You see, prior to 80s, because our taxpayers base was very small, the income tax department or any tax department, they used to audit every taxpayer. Every return used to be audited. But as we started growing, then it was not possible for any government organization or the department do the auditing. So the first time in 1984, the tax audit was introduced by the tax department. Excuse me. And since then, it has been doing the very effective job and has been working with the tax departments to give an assurance about the, the tax reporting. So that is again a very, very major role which ICAI and then our tax professional has been performing. Other is, as our President has mentioned, that not is there. That we are the second largest accountants here in India. more than 350,000, the workforce is there, and highly talented people. If you see the entire rigors of the entire examination process, training process, I am yet to see any other profession with such high rigor. And in fact, day before yesterday, I was in the Forum of Firms, and there it was mentioned that even Supreme Court in one of the hearings was mentioning that about some examination system, and they said that, why don't you study the ICAI's, the examination system, and why don't you learn good things from it? So, and every year, 10,000, I'm told, 10,000 chartered accountants, certifieds, they enter into the profession. And with such rigorous process, and at least, I haven't heard any paper leak and, all these kinds of problems. So just imagine the integrity of the entire process. And that is the reason why, many of the global accountancy and auditing firms, they have their delivery center in India because, you have such a vast pool of manpower. So they are actually performing not only the auditing and accounting work of, the Indian companies, but also of the global companies. So this has become possible because India was known as the software hub, the BPO outsourcing. But this is another area where, because of the strong human capital, the professional capital that, the ICAI and all of you, in fact, I can see many past presidents and many council members here, they all have contributed over the last several decades. So in that sense, India has become a skill capital of the world in the area of financial reporting services. So I must, congratulate the ICAI, all past president, council members, all the leaders that, you have brought this to this stage. Now coming to the, now the question is that, yes, we have done, for the last 7-8 decades, a lot of good things have been done. But at the same time, we should also start discussing that how do we improve further? Because at any point of time, and this is true of every profession or every service, that we should constantly think of improving. And that is where some of the things, we need to discuss. And that is what is also being discussed everywhere in the forums. Like, the audit quality. Because when we are talking about the auditing is a very, very important component of the accountancy profession. And therefore, the moot question is, which are asked, that whether the audit performed today meet the expectation of these stakeholders. And when we say stakeholders, in fact, our finance minister in her speech yesterday, she also referred to this, that the expectation of the stakeholders. And stakeholders are not only limited to the shareholders or the board of directors or the audit committees. It is a much larger body where, the banks and then the people, because ultimately it is the people's money, it is there. And therefore, anything what we discuss about the audit quality, it has to meet the expectation of the stakeholders. And audit quality will be achieved when the expectation of the stakeholders are met. In fact, I came across a very, very recent interesting report, which, day before yesterday, I was talking in a panel discussion before the Forum of Firms. So maybe some of the things I have already spoken there, but in this larger audience, I thought that I must share, those views, even if at the cost of repetition. So I came across a recent report, which in UK, in the aftermath of Carillon failure, the House of Commons had constituted one committee, and then Kingman's committee, and then also the Bryden's committee. And in the Bryden's review report, he has identified various gaps. And he has said performance gap, knowledge gap, hindsight gap, quality gap, all have come to the surface. And, personally, I would tend to agree with a view mentioned in that report. And it is not something which is specific to our country. I mean, I'm talking about the auditing profession as a whole at the global level. And that is what he has also mentioned, that there is an issue of delivery gap when it comes to the audit. And why does this delivery gap arise? It is because of the expectation. So in order to address this delivery gap so that a good audit is performed, we have to keep in mind the stakeholders' expectation, and that is why some suggestions have been given, and those suggestions have come from the profession itself. There was a recent report, survey report by ACCA, Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, and they surveyed about 11,000 members of public in 11 countries, and what it has brought to the fore is the paradigm shift of public expectation of audit as far as the detection and reporting of fraud is concerned. That survey results shows that 35% want the audit to always detect frauds, and another 25 to 40 wants detection of a material frauds. And therefore, the debate is that whether during the auditing, the fraud needs to be detected. So that is the kind of an expectation that is there. And this is an area which is being debated on public forums since decades. And in fact, one of the doyens of this auditing profession and accounting profession, that past president of ICAI, CA Y.H. Malegaon, he wrote something like 25 years back, way back in 1998, and I would quote him, "The public wants protection against fraud, and it cannot understand how companies for which an auditor has given an unqualified audit report could suddenly collapse later on because of certain management fraud." He also said that we need to abandon our traditional approach where we put primary responsibility in this regard on the management, and also auditor looks at the internal control only from his audit perspective. Again, in one of the recent article, after 25 years, he wrote another article in the Chartered Accountant Journal here, that was in July 2022, just about 4 months back. And he has almost repeated the same thing. So the Bryden Committee review report, and then views of Malegaon, and then similarly, the various other report. The question is that if the auditors are not able to identify frauds or risk of corporate failures, the question is that are auditors alone responsible for detecting frauds or risk of corporate failures? Because being a responsible and being alone responsible, these are two different things. So therefore, my personal view in this regard is that before we pass a value judgment on this issue, what we need to do is that all players, which includes the government, regulators, the board of directors, shareholders, all must appreciate the challenging environment in which the auditors operate. Because you just cannot hold somebody responsible without realizing his problem. And that is why I say that all of us, we must evaluate whether the auditors have the real freedom. I mean, having a freedom on paper is one thing, or in the law is one thing, and whether, in the practice, having a real freedom or independence is another thing. So we must evaluate whether they have a real freedom or independence, or face practical constraints while doing audit in the manner they want, and whether there are other factors which limit their professional freedom, independence, and their scope. And that is where the two things, there could be many suggestions, but, in my view, the two things can be very useful. And that is where, I would like that there should be a public debate or professional debate on, some of the things that I'm going to discuss. One is that the engagement with the stakeholders and gathering the expectations by the users. And other is the use of emerging technologies for data research, analytics, and third parties confirmation. In this era of internet and social media platform, there is a need to leverage them and evolve suitable mechanisms and mean for a two-way communication between the stakeholders and auditors. And of course, via the audit committees and the board of directors. Again, here I would suggest that the suggestions of a Bryden review report, he has given a suggestion that publish director's risk report prior to the audit committee meeting, where the scope of audit is discussed. It suggests that the audit committee may publish a formal invitation to the shareholders and the stakeholders to express any requests that they have regarding the areas of emphasis which they wish the auditor to incorporate in their audit plan. Because today in the audit plan, it is left to the professional judgment of the auditors to identify the risk areas. Right. Now that is where the real independence and the professional judgment will come in. But today, in the era of internet and then social media platforms and the communication, the question is, can we strengthen the hands of the auditors? And that is what the Bryden has also suggested, that can we gather the stakeholders' expectation, particularly about the areas which needs to be emphasized during the audit, and then the risk areas. So what I would call that this is a very innovative method of crowdsourcing of risk identification. Because today the risk identification is largely done by the auditor through his professional judgment, but can we crowdsource it and can we supplement it? That's the question that we need to ask, and whether that is going to help meet the expectation gap. So this will actually help not only meet the expectation gap of the shareholders, but also empower and strengthen the auditors to look into several areas which many times the conflicted management may not ideally want them to look into. And that is why I mentioned earlier that whether they have a real professional independence and the freedom, and this is definitely going to help them. And this will go a long way in establishing a transparent regime of a corporate governance, which we have been striving for decades. Another area of use is the technology and data analytics in the audit. Today, we as a country are proud to have solved many long-standing, vexed problems through the technology and data analytics. And as a country, we are proud that what we have done in Aadhaar is unparalleled in the world. The UPI, again, unparalleled in the world. Now the GST, and that is where, again, our CAG and I work together on the GST. And then, we have kind of a very short span of time, 4 to 5 years, completely transformed the entire, the indirect taxation landscape. And we have solved the problem through the technology. The income tax, the faceless assessment, annual information statement in the income tax. So with all these, what we have tried to do is that we have tried to minimize the information asymmetry. In fact, when I was talking here, Mr. Talati was mentioning that, the SEBI chairman was having a discussion with him, and there we are talking about the digital, assurance, because there may be some people who may show turnover of 200 crores in GST, whereas in the income tax they will show something else, and then the financial statement they will show something else. But today, with all this technology and with data exchange, this is, this is going to be very, very difficult, and that is why the use of technology. And in fact, some of the things, as a profession, you may be aware that in the revenue department, what we did was that whatever is the GST turnover is automatically passed on to the income tax. And then in the income tax, in the annual information statement, that is also shown as one of the items, that how much he has disclosed in the as a GST turnover. Similarly, all your banking transactions, for example, if someone has purchased some mutual fund, purchased some property or somewhere, the information gets collected from the various sources, and then they are displayed in the annual information statement. So that when the returns are filed, the taxpayer and then their accountant, they are aware that, look, these are the transactions which are already known to the tax authorities. So better, you include that in your tax return and don't leave any, gap. So this is just an example. So basically, we have also what we have done, another thing that you all must be aware, that way in the VAT regime, this input and output, this credit, the mismatch and then the misreporting, and that's the kind of a huge problem which was happening, and then the tax leakages. But what we have done through the GST, again, through the data, automated data matching, that problem to that extent has been minimized. So basically what we have done is that we have used technology to minimize human interface, physical inspections, and we have to do external and third-party confirmation of information contained in more than 200 millions of tax returns and almost 500 million e-invoice every year in an automated manner, and thereby improve compliance and tax collection significantly. So therefore, we all need to put our minds together and to see how technology can be used in the areas of assurance, the digital assurance and audit. Naturally, if we are going to use technology in the digital assurance, the quality of audit is going to improve very, very greatly, in the sense that external confirmations, and then there will be minimum scope of any information asymmetry. So in fact, we must be aware that stakeholder expectations and technology are going to change the face of the audit or the nature of the audit in future. So we should be very, very clear about it. Now, another very important topic, which is the theme of this World Congress, and is that non-financial reporting initiative and frameworks. As we all know that since 1992, the UN Conference on Environment and Development, many efforts in this area of sustainable development have taken place under the various initiatives of United Nations and other state organizations. Now, what has happened over the last few years is that the number of reporting provisions and then the different standards have come in. And that is creating a challenge about the comparability. Like, in the accounting, there is a standard, international standard, everybody sticks to that. And so therefore, there is a comparability across the companies and within the companies over the years. But what is happening in this sustainability reporting is that there are a number of frameworks, more than a dozen of frameworks, and then the companies are choosing different frameworks for different aspects. The same company is using different frameworks on different years. So that is something, so there is a great need for, having some kind of an uniformity and comparability. And rightly, based on the suggestion by G7 and G20 and to the IFRS Foundation for addressing this complex and fragmented sustainability disclosure landscape. And there, the ISSB, and in India, the ICAI has taken a lead in this matter. And I must say that ICAI is one of the early leaders in this entire endeavor, and that is why this kind of an awareness for having a uniform standards, uniform framework, and working closely with the ISSB and getting that thing done. So in fact, the ISSB has already issued 2 exposure drafts on sustainability. The now the need is to take it further, and in the other areas also, we need to evolve this global baseline uniform framework for the non-financial reportings. Basically, at the end, I must say that in India, we have a talent pool, we have the standards, and we have all the necessary building blocks in terms of a technology, the different database, the banks, the tax structures, other reporting framework. What we need to do is that we have to, together we should apply our mind and see that all the different pieces of puzzle are there, and how do we, connect them, and so that we can leverage and we can greatly enhance the reporting as well as the assurance framework. And I'm very sure that with the current, the leadership which ICAI has been showing for the last several years, I mean, this is not something which is unachievable, right? I must share that this is something which, they will, they will do that. And we as the regulators, we are going to be fully behind any such endeavors, and whatever is possible, we are going to do that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ajay Bhushan Prasad Pandey, Chairman, National Financial Reporting Authority. And now I invite CA T.N. Manoharan, past President ICAI, for his address.
Pleasant good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Distinguished guests on the dais, Mr. Girish Chandra Murmu, Honorable Comptroller and Auditor General of India, Dr. Ajay Bhushan Prasad Pandey, Chairman of the National Financial Reporting Authority, our beloved President, Dr. Debashish Mitra, and beloved Vice President, Aniket Talati, past Presidents, Central Council members, representatives of various accounting bodies across the globe, foreign delegates, and our own members from the overseas chapters and from different parts of India who have converged on this memorable occasion. Before I venture into sharing few thoughts on the theme of this session, Accountancy Profession Partner in Nation Building, let me share two nostalgic memories. When President Kamalesh Vikamsi was occupying in 2005 the helm of affairs of ICAI, and I happened to be his vice president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam was the chief guest for the international conference on 2nd of September 2005 at Ashoka Hotel, New Delhi, when he gave us this description of partners in nation building. And when he mentioned that, it was obvious as to how he valued the contribution of our profession to the building and shaping of the economy of the country. But if we replicate it, it is not just applicable for India. In every economy, it is the accounting profession which plays a vital role in building the respective economies. Because which other profession other than accounting profession can claim so much of proximity to the economy of the nation and in the policy formulations? When it comes to the second aspect, when I happened to be the president of ICAI in 2006, we expressed interest to hold the World Congress of Accountants. And IFAC was considerate enough to enlist us, and the team visited India. We toured across the country, met several ministers, regulators, government, and they evaluated. We were in the top 3. We lost to Malaysia for holding 2010 World Congress only on one deficiency. Every other parameter we excelled. The one deficiency was there was no international standard convention center of this size and standards. And therefore, you can understand my happiness in participating in this World Congress. So therefore, hats off to Prafulla Sargent and all the successive presidents, including the current president and vice president, and IFAC, for giving this opportunity to India to host this conference, which is the Olympics of the accounting profession, which happens once in 4 years to India. And post-pandemic, it is all the more, we feel jubilant to converge in such an excellent venue to greet, meet, and chat and exchange ideas on this platform. Now, pandemic and the environment and the evolving economic scenario is posing so many challenges. But still, our profession is so dynamic to reinvent, reorient ourselves so that we are able to sustain our contribution to the economy, to the clients, to the corporate world, and propel the economy to grow further. In American, War College, they used to use the acronym WCOA World. That is to demonstrate to the soldiers as to how in the Cold War, the WCOA world is to be tackled, is to be faced. The expansion of WCOA is, V is for volatility, U is for uncertainty, C is for complexity, A is for ambiguity. And ladies and gentlemen, you will agree with me, we experienced all this during the pandemic scenario more than ever before. But still, nothing stopped. We did not pause in rendering our quality services and contributions in whatever roles we have been playing. So for us, this volatility did not pose a challenge because we believed in virtuousness, because the ethical fabric of these professions, kept us in good state. Uncertainty is not something new for us. Right from student days, examination days, uncertainty was glaring at us. And we overcame. Even our chairman of NFRA was talking about the robust examination standards of ICAI. In fact, I still remember when late Arun Jaitley, who was then the law minister, came to one of our conferences. It was his narration that after completing graduation, he was not able to decide whether to take up chartered accountancy or law course. So he consulted his uncle, who was practicing as an advocate in Supreme Court. Uncle, should I take law or should I pursue CA? And his uncle gave a simple advice. CA is difficult to pass, law is difficult to fail. And it was the confession of Arun Jaitley, that's why I chose law and became an advocate. Of course, I am also a lawyer, so with due respect to my own legal profession, I am able to state this, which is a factual position. So from that perspective, uncertainty, we are all along used to it, and we are able to overcome it. Then in terms, because it is not uncertainty for us, it is the understanding that every problem has a solution. Every adversity has an opportunity. So that is the philosophy we believe in. If that understanding is there, evolved out of maturity, then no uncertainty can stare at us beyond a point. Then it is not the complexity. Even if there is a complexity, it is our competence that will help us to overcome that complexity or navigate through that complexity. And it is not ambiguity. For us, it is the adaptability that stands us in good state. So our WCOA world is virtuousness and understanding, competence and adaptability. And you saw our own leaders, the adaptability they had in Baba Ramdev's session. Wherever they had the adaptability to replicate him, to imitate him, they did it. Wherever they could not, they applauded him. That is the approach we follow. Even in our day-to-day functioning and execution, never found wanting. So from that perspective, I'm confident that the future is going to be very bright, and programs of this nature. This is one profession which believes in continuous professional education, in upgrading knowledge, updating knowledge. So therefore, we will never be found wanting, or we will not be surprised of any new avenues that are unfolding before us. We keep equipping ourselves. So we don't merely try to build a future for us. We also continuously keep building us for the future. So if we can build us for the future, whatever be the uncertainty of the future, we are able to adapt and navigate through that uncertainty. Many young members used to ask me in informal chat, sir, so much of automation is happening, so much of tools, gadgets have come, even in carrying out audit functions. Whether audit will sustain itself as the core avenue of this profession. And let me make use of this opportunity, and I'm sure my views will be validated by all the senior members here and the seasoned professionals here, that irrespective of what advancement modern technology comes, audit cannot be dispensed with, because the professional judgment, the professional skepticism has to be done only by a human professional who is a chartered accountant, who has the exclusivity in executing the attest function. All these tools, gadgets, automation, everything can supplement us, can support us, can enhance our efficiency, can expedite our delivery of services, can shorten the period of our, analyzing the data. But they cannot replace us, they cannot substitute us. So from that perspective, we have a significant role to play. It was our first Prime Minister of India who said, no law is as good as it is enacted, it is only as good as it is implemented. And the typical example is GST law, which was introduced in 2017 in the country, subsuming so many other complex laws. And I must compliment or, with all humility, declare that this profession was partnering with the government in making this GST the most successful implementation. And that fruits of that implementation we are able to experience, because in the last 8 months, the revenue to the government exchequer out of GST has crossed 1,40,000 crores. And the highest collection having been in April, 1,67,000 crores. And in October, it was the second highest, 1,51,000 crores. So these are all the ways by which our profession is partnering in nation building. And even with the regulators, we have CAG, we have NFRA, we have Reserve Bank of India, we have SEBI, we have Ministry of Corporate Affairs, we have IRDA, and so many other regulators. We are all stakeholders of the economy. We are mutually also stakeholders accountable to synergize with each other, to facilitate this efficient functioning of each other. So in that context, accountancy profession has evolved. Accounting professionals have evolved to supplement, cooperate, and support. No regulation comes without a reason. It follows either the best practices across the globe, and therefore we'll have to look at it with a positive attitude, or secondly, if any constraint or restraint is sought to be introduced, it is having some reason or some happening of the recent past. While representations can be made to reduce the rigor of any such thing if it is unreasonable, but we have to face it, have the courage of conviction that if we keep doing our duties properly, our rights will get preserved. If we focus on intangibles like the reputation, brand building, competency, efficiency, goodwill of the profession, the tangibles will automatically follow. So we need not focus on the tangibles and lose sight of the intangibles. Let us focus on intangibles, and the tangibles will become the byproducts. Thereby, our reputation will be sustained. So from that perspective, I think, this profession has evolved to a level where it can synergize and collaborate with all the regulators. And it was heartening, sir, as chairman of NFRA was going on record to say that we cannot just come to a conclusion about auditors' accountability merely because there is a fraud in a negative way. It is really heartwarming because audit and investigation differentiation has to be kept in mind. All said and done, there are certain frauds which can be exposed in the course of audit. And if symptoms occur or there are indicators of a fraud, the auditors themselves will convert audit into investigation, dive deep and to unearth all the frauds. But in spite of following the standard auditing and assurance standards and procedures, it is possible that some frauds can escape. And due to subsequent happenings, it is possible that a fraud surfaces. And that time when the auditor's role is judged, by hindsight, one cannot sit in judgment on what was performed when these facts were unknown or never surfaced at all. The bona fide versus malified, the dereliction of duty versus the genuine implementation of the duties. All the distinction, I'm sure, under your chairmanship, NFRA will be able to hold this profession, judge this profession, evaluate this profession in the right context. I would like to make use of this opportunity to urge our professionals. We have contributed not only to nation building, but even in the society by playing, contributing at the social way, professional, academic institutions, many roles we play. But I think a time has come where we'll have to expand the horizon to contribute in policy formulation at the corporate board levels as well as at the national economic level. Some of us are doing. In fact, if you take the board of directors list of all the banks or reputed corporates, you will find chartered accountants being there. And, the growth of this profession is amazing, even in terms of gender diversity. In 2000, at the advent of this 21st century, the women population of chartered accountants was 8%. 92% were male chartered accountants. Today, 22 years later, the woman population is 28%. It has grown to 28%. So 1 lakh out of 3,50,000 are women chartered accountants. And similarly, if you looked at 1980s when I qualified, 80% were in practice, only 20% were in industry. Today, 56% are in industry, only 44% are in practice out of 3,50,000 members, which shows that the corporate world has recognized the caliber contribution of the chartered accountants. They are no longer number crunchers, they are decision makers. They are designated as executive directors, CFOs, CEOs, and they are in the board of directors. And a day should come when the Prime Minister's delegation, when it goes abroad for negotiation or discussion or participation in the international forum, ICAI delegation should be invited to accompany him. And that should be the level of our aspiration to grow in policy formulation at the economy level also. So when these things are, definitely there will be challenges. All these things will not come in a platter. We have to slog. Challenges will be there. There may be certain limitations, but we should not limit our challenges. We should challenge our limitations. If we are able to do that, we will be able to overcome. See, risk is there. In fact, it was rightly mentioned by our CAG also about risk. Risk, in fact, ships are safer when they are anchored at a port. But that is not the purpose for which ships are built. Ships are built for sailing in a voyage, face the storms, turbulent weather, tides, to cross the waters and reach the other destinations. So also, we should also gear up and face that situation. Actually, the success of journey is not so charmful or admirable merely by the distance we travel. It is also worth celebrating by the hurdles we overcome, by the bottlenecks we surpass. So therefore, let us gear up. Let us get geared up to face all these challenges and contribute at the macro level. And ladies and gentlemen, India's growth is apparent and visible. We have come a long way because in terms of health access index, we are ranked 66th. In fact, when the whole world was reeling under COVID, pandemic situation, India geared up to produce its own vaccination. And we have, so far, government has been successful in administering 220 crores of dosages. Not only that, we have exported vaccination to 94 countries across the globe, taking leadership position. And in terms of ease of doing business, we are ranked 63rd. In terms of global innovation index, we are 46th rank. In terms of competitive index, we are 37th. But there are areas where we have to still grow. In terms of per capita index, we are nowhere compared to the top, 15 nation. We are actually 142nd rank. In terms of Human Development Index, we are 132. And therefore, happiness index also 136. So these are all, there are some areas we need to improve. We have improved a lot. We have come a long way on many other parameters. But look at the FDI inflow. India has become the most attractive destination for global investment. So there, 84 billion of FDI inflow. And this year it is predicted to surpass 100 billion US dollar equivalent. And thereafter it is going to gallop. And even in terms of GDP growth, we are the fastest growing economy in the world. In 2010, we surpassed Canada to become the 9th largest. 2015, we overtook Brazil and Italy to become the 7th largest. 2018, we overtook France to become the 6th largest. And now we have surpassed UK to become the 5th largest. And 2027, we are expected to overtake Germany. 2029, 30, Japan to become the 3rd largest. I think Mr. Adani mentioned about our, possibility of adding $1 trillion, GDP size, $1 trillion size in 12 to 18 months. It is exactly possible because if you study the growth of US economy, which is 23 trillion now, and the Chinese economy, which is 17.83 trillion now, first 3 trillion is always a struggle for any economy. Both US and China took 7 to 8 years for the first trillion to second trillion. Second to third trillion, they took 5 years. India achieved first trillion in 2007. It took 7 years to cross second trillion in 2014. It took 5 years to touch 3 trillion in 2019. But unfortunately, the COVID came and 2 years pass button. But now we have bounced back and crossed 3 trillion. Hereafter, it is India's time to add every year or alternative year 1 trillion, and therefore this is bound to happen. And when it emerges, imagine with all this growth, the 3rd largest ecosystem where 107 unicorns or startups are there. With the Make in India policy of the government, youth have realized why should they be job seekers? They should become job providers. Why should they be history readers? They should become history creators. That's why startups are growing. And with that mindset, I am confident these things will happen. And can all these things happen devoid of the accounting profession? In every such growth and prosperity of the nation, we have to have an hand. And therefore, accountancy profession is bound to be sustaining its growth and contribution as partner in nation building. And if only we are able to, ensure that we have this independence, excellence, and integrity, we need not worry about the future of the profession. It will become the profession of the future. And once, that positivity and hope is amongst us, I'm rest assured, like the CEO of McKinsey mentioned, it is not India's decade, it is India's century. So let us all gear up and contribute to this, make it happen. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. All the very best.
Sir, I rise to present words of thanks, but the audience has stood up and proposed a very hearty vote of thanks to all the 3 speakers who have been phenomenal. His Excellency, the Comptroller and Auditor General of India, Murmu ji, thank you so much, sir, for gracing the World Congress of Accountants. Sir, you spoke about sustainability. Our SRSB chairman, I could see, was smiling and noticing that even the CAG's office is looking at sustainability. Sir, you mentioned about the role Gazap plays and how ICAI very closely works with you. Sir, you also gave us the opportunity to work very closely with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Maldives, whose president is also the CAG of Maldives. And sir, I had the recent opportunity to be there. And sir, we commit that, yes, as India and as ICAI, we will work very closely with them also. The NFRA chairman, Ajay Bhushan Pandey ji, thank you so much, sir, for gracing this occasion. and for the wonderful thoughts that you have shared with us. Sir mentioned that today the global delivery of services of accountants happens from here in India. And we are now not just a BPO, but a knowledge processing outsourcing unit. He mentioned about whose responsibility it is and whether it is the sole responsibility of the auditor. Sir, these are words which are music to the ears of auditors, and thank you so much for putting the audit function in the right perspective, and you will find ICAI with you in this journey. Sir, you have raised two very important points on crowdsourcing of the audit plan and audit risk. Friends, I think all of us who are in the audit profession, this is a unique concept that Sir has proposed of why audit risk should only be taken by auditors and chartered accountants and CA firms. Why not have all stakeholders give audit risks and document it and present it to the audit committee? We have our past presidents here, some of them who have come up in the public domain and said, where were the credit agencies, where were other stakeholders? And I think, sir, this is going to be an extraordinary way where we can involve all the stakeholders, the wider gambit, to expand the audit risk and ensure that all components play their part. Sir, you mentioned about digital assurance and the importance of technology. And I'm hoping that with the IAASB chairman here, and where he has taken up the journey to amend ISA 500 to include technology in audit evidence, I am sure the future is going to be of digital assurance. Like you rightly mentioned, government data is going to be used in audit. It may be the GST returns, it may be the annual information returns, which are the AIS, which is now available from the income tax website, or the MCA portal. All of this will be extensively used, sir, in the audit. And finally, what an enthralling address by our past president, Padma Shri T.N. Manoharan ji. For those of you who for the first time heard the term VUCA, may please raise their hand, and I'm sure it is many. In fact, I myself heard about VUCA only 15 days ago, and this past president spoke about VUCA. That is the knowledge you get from the illustrious past presidents of ICAI. I was with another past president only recently, and he mentioned to me that now VUCA works in close coordination with what is BANI, B-A-N-I. The world faces BANI. It is brittle, it is anxious, it is non-linear and incomprehensible. VUCA and BANI, these are two terms which management experts today talk about, and great to have you, sir, talk about it. Finally, I think I can only add and complete with what words he said. Let's all focus on intangibles. Let's focus on the respect of the profession. Let's try and focus on harnessing and honing our skills, and all the tangibles will follow. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for the enthralling session. Let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, C. Aniket Talati, for that formal vote of thanks. I now request the President and Vice President ICAI to present a memento of gratitude. First, to Mr. Girish Chandra Murmu, Honorable Comptroller and Auditor General of India. With that, we conclude this session. And I see the participants of the next session with us. So let's move on to the next session straight away. Meanwhile, I have an important announcement to share. This is regarding a very innovative effort where we solicit cooperation from the delegates. This must be of excitement to each one of you.